Well, hello there on this just delicious Sunday. I had to come down here, get on the beach, show you a bit of sunshine. I hope you can see properly. It doesn't matter if you can't see me. I wanted to make some reflections really on depression, anxiety and the incessant monkey mind because, hello Chris, how are you doing? I hope you're well. I seem to have a lot of people around me who really struggle with depression and anxiety. Yeah, this is near Brighton Marina, look. That's where it is, but I'm looking there, I'm looking at you and I'm looking there, so you choose your view. Choose your perception, choose your view. So, yes, a lot of people around me depressed, anxious, fearful, and also incredibly stressed. And as I wrote the title, I was thinking the incessant monkey mind. Hold on, which bit of the mind am I talking about here? Which bit of the brain am I talking about here? Because the mind and the brain are not the same thing. The mind is the field, the brain is obviously the bit that's in our heads. And mental health is absolutely no laughing matter, in the sense that it is a huge issue, and actually I would suggest that the only sane response to the insanity of our world is to have some kind of mental health issue. And I'm sure if everybody fought enough to be screened, there would be some kind of diagnosis for us all. You know, when we look at attachment styles, we look at how we were brought into the world, we look at, you know, our conception, our time in the womb, birth trauma, early parenting, early influences, how any of us ever end up being balanced human beings, I have no idea. But we've got here, or some of us have got here, and, you know, for me, I feel I definitely suffered from depression when I was a teenager. I didn't want to live. I felt very empty, very alienated from the people around me. And this is apparently really common. And you either sort of come to fit the bill and you play the part and you look happy for so long that you start to think you're happy because everyone else around you is also happy. And I just want to caveat here that, you know, as a child I was incredibly sensitive. What I recognise myself to be is an intuitive empath. Most of my clients are intuitive empaths that haven't learnt to have the strong enough boundaries to be able to tell the difference between what is their stuff, their emotion, what is someone else's. And no, there are no monkeys here, Chris. It's a figure of speech. So yeah, we've kind of the influences that can affect us and the way that we can end up being shaped to be who we are infinite. And as I said, it's no laughing matter, but it is something that so many people are affected by. And I, as you know, I'm in the world of self-development. Some of you know this, some of you don't. And supporting people to clear their subconscious programming so that they can start to align their conscious will with their subconscious will. But having seen people really struggle to be able to overcome the challenges and to see that incessantly what seems to be happening most of the time is the fact that they are in their minds, they are allowing the mind to take over. And this fascinates me because I teach yoga, and yoga is a form of mind control. It's learning to control where your mind goes. It's learning to refocus. Every time you find yourself going somewhere you don't want to go, it's like, okay, I don't really want to look at that. I want to look at that. Oh, I'm looking at that again. Oh, I'm going to look back here. Oh, I'm looking at that again. Never mind, I'll come back here. But the story becomes more like, oh no, there I am looking at that again. See, I'm doing it again. I'm such an idiot. I fucking hate myself. I'm such an idiot. I just should be looking over there, but I'm not looking over there. I'm looking over there, and I'm a terrible person because I'm looking over there. You get the idea, right? And it's just one of these things that I've come to that I'm thinking, how can I support people to make this shift? And it's not just about reprogramming the subconscious. It's also about our diet and our lifestyle massively. And it's about being willing to let go of the limiting beliefs that we are stubbornly holding on to. So for the most part, those of us who are, and you know, I do want to say, don't think I'm talking here from a place that it's all easy peasy and easy peasy for me. It's not easy peasy at all. I've had to get through a lot of my own personal challenges to get to a place where I feel like I can see from the wood from the trees, and I feel like I can deal with challenges and rise above them and see them as opportunities for growth. So that seeing through eyes of love and loving what you see is open to all of us. But I had a really interesting conversation with my friend Dominic Rapson, who I'm going to be doing some interviews with coming up, because his story is fascinating. And I have to say, I never ever thought that I would be opening my mind to what he's got to say, but he is talking about how important it is that meat is reintroduced into the diet of vegans and vegetarians who have mental health issues. And actually, for anybody who suffers from mental health issues, it's really important to look at diet and to understand that most of what we've heard about good quality nutrition, including raw foods, including plant-based diets, including everything, is kind of needs looking at again. Research is constantly being updated. So this whole move towards eating good quality grass-fed organic red meat and organs as a way of being able to actually get our brains functioning differently is really important. And the link here between why we care so much, this sort of emotional eating, and how much we've brought food into our lives as a source of nourishment and source of comfort, and how it's linked to our early nourishment, so whether we were breastfed or not, whether we were bottle fed, whether we were cuddled enough, all of these things play a part. But how do we reset back to a place where the mind is calm, we're able to think clearly, we're able to refocus our attention where we want it to be, and we're able to recognise when we are focused where we don't want to be, and instead of stepping into judgment and blame and guilt and shame, we just readdress the focus. And so diet is a huge part of this, and I'm not going to go on and on about advocating a meat-based diet here. I don't want to get into fights with vegans, I don't want to get into fights with vegetarians. I've been a vegetarian for years, since I was 12. I've toyed with veganism and been plant-based for many years, but I've also recognised that my body needs wild fish and organic eggs, biodynamic eggs, and I've moved beyond that actually to think I need something more. And what is it that I need? Because I love chocolate, I love sugar, I love caffeine. It's like, okay, you kind of learn to manage things, don't you, by having a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of that, and you think you're fine, but actually you're not, because you're still trying to self-medicate in lots of different ways. And we're all doing that. You know, there's no judgment here. This is an open conversation, because so many people are suffering from feeling really shit about life and about themselves. And how do we get really out of the dumps? Well, if someone is insisting that life is shit and it can only ever be shit, it's very difficult to be able to get through to them. So, you know, what do? You can change what they're eating. You can potentially diffuse some oils. You can potentially start to lift their mood enough to be able to create a bit of a gap in how they normally think, and therefore to plant some seeds. But everybody is at different stages of evolution, and I've been detoxing now for nearly a month, so I mean my detox has been not very extreme, I have to say, but I've stuck to it, and it's still been an emotional detox, it's still been a physical detox, it's still been a psychological detox. I've been journaling, I can see it all, and it's like, okay, I'm able to do this. I feel supported enough to do this by life. You know, I haven't got a mum down the road, I haven't got a partner, I haven't got dads that are here in England that I could rely on, I haven't got financial support. If I was really stuck, there'd be some help, sure, but I'm not in a place where it's just like, oh, it's really easy, I don't see why you don't get it. I've had to struggle and get through my challenges too, and understand how much my perception influences my experience of reality, and that's why I'm so passionate about this. You've heard about probiotics being essential to gut health, but it's not just that. It's the nervous system, it's the cardiovascular system, and the digestive system that need to come into balance. And whether no, I'm not going to talk about this, Chris. I'm not talking about veganism. I'm going to get Dominic to talk about it, because he's got a fact-based book called To Thrive with Vitality, which explains everything, every theory around veganism, vegetarianism, what's cruel, what isn't cruel, and why the information we have is not published in such a way that is positive. It's actually a political agenda again towards veganism, which is crazy. Like when you look underneath the surface of just about everything, it is quite astounding, the story we are fed and what's really going on behind the scenes. And I think this is why so many people on a super conscious level, they know this. And as a result of knowing this, they are completely in conflict, because we look at the world, think it's one way, and actually there's all this other stuff going on behind the scenes to get us to think that way, and program us and keep us quiet by feeding us sugar and feeding us carbs and keeping us too stupid to think, really, and to become autonomous beings responsible for our own health. So I feel very passionately about the whole mental health issue. I'm surrounded by, as I said, there's teenagers, there's family members, there's very dear friends, all struggling, and you kind of, anyone who's around mental health knows it's incredibly draining to be around it all of the time. And because it's very draining, you need a break. You know, I'm down here, I need a break. And also to become in charge of your energy. So there's something I'm going to be putting out really soon, which is going to replace my prosperity challenge on my website, which is going to be called I can't remember, 6 steps to miraculous success. That's it, 6 steps to miraculous success, which is going to be the things you can actually do to bring your life into some order, because if you do that, it helps. But the nutrition, the dietary side is very, very important too, and I have to say that I feel that has to be addressed. And whilst people are arguing about what is right and what is wrong and poor animals suffering and all the rest of it, and I'm not at all advocating that animals should suffer, because they shouldn't, but we have to be balanced in ourselves to make balanced decisions, and none of us are balanced at the moment. Very few of us are balanced at the moment. I'm a yogi, you know, in my tradition I'm supposed to not eat meat, I'm supposed to be all meek and mild, and anyone who knows me knows I'm incredibly fiery. Because I sense the injustices of the world, and I'm not here to be meek and mild. I can raise my frequency, which I love to do, and I can emit a higher frequency, but I'm also going to call out shit when I see it and speak publicly about it, because I'm interested in where people get locked into a mindset that they insist is right and yet is making them feel utterly miserable about themselves and the world. And I want to challenge that mindset and say, is that really the way it is, or is there another way? Now, when I watch people wallowing in self-pity, and I've done it myself, you know, when I lost my mum, it was horrendous. All I wanted to do was just to be down in the dumps. And it's an addictive thing to stay in these low-frequency places, just like it is addictive to get into high-frequency places. This is why people get addicted to yoga, to exercise, to anything that lifts them up, releases endorphins. Because anything you do repeatedly that either makes you feel good or makes you feel bad, you will continue to do, because you get addicted to that feeling. It becomes your baseline. So I'm just challenging you at the moment to consider what your absolutes are, your beliefs about the world. Just have an open mind to them being challenged. And if you do find that you cannot seem to get out of a pit, look at what resources you can put aside to make that your priority, okay? Because this has to be dealt with on every level, physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. And there are fast ways of doing it, and there are slow ways of doing it. Whilst I see people suffering, I don't want to give them slow ways of dealing with it. I would like to offer them fast ways of doing it. Equally, I also want to conserve my own energy, and I recognise not everybody is in a place where they want to shift, and that's fine too. That the support is out there. People are reaching hands out saying, come on, you don't have to be there anymore, take my hand. And so the people who are reaching out saying, please help me, are the people that we can actually all support one way or another. There are people, though, that aren't even well enough to reach out and to say, help me. And those are the people that, once we are well enough, we have to look out for them. You know, they're on the streets. They're teenagers we know. They are adults we know. Old people that we know. Sorry, I don't want to say old people, but you know what I mean. Young at heart. There are people everywhere really, really struggling and really feeling on their own. And I think our own internal pain can be so bad sometimes we aren't able to perceive that. And it's through community, it's through community action, it's through reaching out that those of us who feel isolated and alone can start to feel better. So again, this is a bit of a ramble, I'm sorry. It's also a bit of a conversation starter, because I'm interested in what your views are as to what would support people to move out of a state of stress, anxiety, depression. You know, I'm thinking about the people closest to me that I see struggle, and even if I'm right in front of them going, don't do this, try this, try this, try this, and I'm a fixer, obviously, that's what I do by profession, but also I'm impatient when I see people spending a long time somewhere they don't really need to be, and what I've had to learn is to step back and allow their process, and therefore not be too involved in their process, and therefore not be too involved in their suffering, which is challenging, because that can look like I don't care, and it's not that I don't care, of course I care. But everybody has to align with divine timing, and that's what these 6 miracle steps to success, or 6 steps to miracle success, I can't even remember the name of my thing's going to be about. it is about you being able to make the changes you need to by looking at the simple processes. One thing leads to another that can support you, and in doing what you are doing and what you can do, you then create the next step. But whilst you will give me an excuse as to why things have to stay the same, why things can only be this way, why you're trying as hard as you can and it's still not changing, I just say stop trying. And what I see is people caught up with getting it right. And as I was saying yesterday to someone close to me, you can't get it wrong. If you can get into your head that you cannot get it wrong, just set your heart in the right direction and know that you can't get it wrong. Then that's what you feed, that you're getting it right. But if you're scared all the time that you're getting it wrong, then whatever you try is going to be the wrong thing, isn't it? Because your focus is on getting things wrong. So what are we going to do? Are we going to focus on what's wrong, or are we going to focus on what's right? We need to always use the springboard of what's wrong to what it would feel like to feel right. But again, I see that addiction, that pull towards reaffirming the shit feelings we have about ourselves is so compelling. And we isolate ourselves more and more because when people challenge it, it's difficult for us. It means we've got to change, and we don't, as much as we're miserable, we don't want to change because we're scared of the unknown. So there's all these little trip ups that happen that keep us sort of stuck in these loops, and it's a complex issue. There's not one answer, but it's, I haven't even talked about medication because that's a stopgap. That is not a solution. It's a stopgap. The world is really out of balance on every level. It's also beautifully balanced and fantastically organised. And it's how are those of us who are managing to find greater balance in our lives, greater alignment, able to hold that frequency and support others to tune into it. I'm really, really interested in the ideas here that people might want to share on this in the comments, because as I said, the food thing is so important, and it's not go vegan, it's not go this, not go that. It's about looking at what building blocks we really need and what you can get into someone's body who doesn't even want to eat. There's so many fundamental steps here of where do you start with someone who is just in such a bad way, and how do you address the cause, not just the symptoms. We're evolving this idea all the time. We are evolving this idea all of the time. And my heart goes out to anybody who's watching this and is identifying. My suggestion really would be a very, very simple practice, which is just to keep shifting the focus to what you want to feel, what you want to feel, what you want to feel. And knowing that judgment is utterly poisonous. Whether we're judging ourselves or we're judging others, it's being able to forgive the action of judgment whenever you notice it. She says after she shouted at two people as she was driving, because they're both bloody idiot Sunday drivers that don't know where they're fucking going. I feel so good. Apologising for letting it out is a really good thing. Not apologising for not being perfect is a really good thing. Being able to own your shit is a really good thing. All of these things help you to be happy. All of these things help you to stop apologising for your existence. And, I feel so much happier about my shadow than I ever have. I'm not sure about the other people, but I should check that out. But this is all the journey. It is all the journey, is the shadow. It's loving the shadow. And until we really get sick of the way things are, they don't change. But sometimes people need to eat themselves up completely, and the mental will eat the emotional, which will eat the physical. It erodes every aspect. So I do believe that those of us who are around people who are not very well mentally at the moment, we have a very difficult balance to strike between our own self-care and supporting them, and this has been a challenge for me. And I'm so grateful for the support of the services that are available, because you need them. But it is a very important aspect to be able to nurture ourselves so that we can be nurturing without judgment and live by the example, because as our frequency changes, that will allow the frequency around us to change. You can't change other people. No one can change other people. And I see people focusing on their relationships as their source of happiness rather than their internal relationship. That really worries me. It's like, how can you possibly have a healthy relationship with someone else if you're really not healthy yourself? And yet, by starting to take care of your inner world, you start to attract other people around you who are doing the same thing. And so your relationships instantly improve as a result of that. Not being frightened to let people go, not being frightened to let beliefs go, not being frightened to let your view of the world be challenged. All of these things help to shift this frequency. I think I'm going to leave this here because there's a lot to say, and I'm still processing it as I'm sharing this video, because, you know, when I feel powerless to support a shift, it takes me into an inner process, and I know I'm not powerless, and I know that if I've got a lot of depression and anxiety around me, it's either that I have a lot of depression and anxiety within me that I haven't actually dealt with, or I'm in a position now to start to support because of the integration I've done. And I have done a lot of work around this. I genuinely don't feel depressed or anxious the way I used to, the way I oscillated, the helplessness, and just the hanging on hope, and feeling like it's Groundhog Day every day. All of that, it's not the same. So I hope you found this an interesting reflection on a Sunday, and I hope that if you are feeling crap, just focus on that and not on that. Come back to here.